I get to interview this person who led me to that person. And I just kind of wandered in the forest for a while, bumping into Merlin and bumping into Obi-Wan and, hey, can you guys help me out? I had a bunch of hardship, but I got my treasure, which was a completed film about Campbell's work. And then I came to return it with the village and shared it with the village, which is human, all humans.
Exploring the human journey.
I did this movie called Finding Joe, and it's about the hero's journey, which is really about the journey of your life. If you're a Joseph Campbell fan, you'll understand the material. If you're not, it's a great introduction to what the hero's journey is and how your life unfolds like a hero's journey. So I was having a midlife crisis, a classic midlife crisis, right? Stupid car that you spent too much money on, extramarital affair, whatever, just it was horrible. Drugs and alcohol were right there. I mean, it was just bad. And in that crisis, both of my parents died. And it was weird. It was like I got one crisis replaced with another, right? Like I kind of got thrown out of my crisis with the next crisis. And this thought kept coming into my head about the hero's journey and, hey, according to Campbell and the hero's journey, you know, I'm kind of in the belly of the beast right now is where you would see me on the map. And at some point in that like dark place where, you know, it was just horrible, I was like, man, maybe now is a good time to make this film. And so I feel like the journey of making the film was my journey out of that crisis. And it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in making this film. And to this day, I get emails from people saying, hey man, I watched your film, it totally changed my life. So it was just an amazing, powerful thing. And I still can't believe I actually did it. I try to see consciousness mostly at an individual level, although I see that it is out there as a collective. Moving consciousness forward means an individual changes their consciousness, which adds to the collective consciousness, which can change that one, like ripples in a pond. And so I really enjoy talking about conversations about your personal consciousness. How do we change that? How do we look at the world differently? What traps are we stuck in now? Why don't we look at the world, differently? Why aren't we all looking at the world as it is in reality? No, we're all one, we're all connected, we're all spiritual beings looking for something, and we can all help each other out.
Hi and welcome. I'm so glad you joined us today. Recently, I was on Gaia TV and I saw this amazing movie about the life of Joseph Campbell. It's called Finding Joe. Some months later, I'm at an event and the man behind me says, hi, my name is Patrick. I did a movie called Finding Joe, and I went, oh my God. How does that happen? How are the synchronicities in life that I'm moved by something and then I find the creator? And then fast forward a little bit of time and here we are sitting in your house talking.
Crazy.
So,
but it's not at the same time.
Right?
It's like it's supposed to be, but it's like, how does that happen?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And like I said, it's crazy, and it's not supposed to be that way, but all of a sudden it is, and then it becomes the norm.
Yeah, the new normal.
Right.
You just flow with it.
Right. But I'm still, every time it happens, I'm still like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I know, it's like when you get into this flow of life and these synchronicities start happening, and it like gets your attention.
Yes.
And it actually makes life a fun game.
Yes, I totally agree.
In the flow.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so,
he's in flow.
Joseph Campbell was something really important for me. I have had a deconstruction from a fear-based religious construct that it's heaven or hell and you're here basically in a waiting room waiting for that to happen. Joseph Campbell taught me that his body of work, that this is a human experience, and there's a lot of mythologies that have based all of our beliefs and all of the things that make us human. There are these stories, these corollaries, and he started putting together the pieces. And it was like, wow. So his work was so important to me. I imagine that's impacted you, obviously.
Yeah, I agree. His work was really important for me too. I mean, when I read his work at an early age in life, and it was deeply impactful. Just understanding that mythologies and stories are what drive us, right? It's almost like your programming, your cultural programming anyway. And I think, and also getting a sense of the mystical and spiritual through stories it was just mind expanding for me to go, oh, that's the way the world works.
So you ran across his work when you were young.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I saw the Power of Myth series. I was introduced to him like in the same way that many people were. That there's a series called The Power of Myth with Bill Moyers interviewing him at Skywalker Ranch.
Yeah, that's that 80s PBS.
It's the
interview.
80s PBS interview,
Super good.
and it's so even to this day I watch it. It's really amazing.
Yeah, the content's spot on.
And it's out there for free now. You can watch it anytime. And I just could not get enough of it, man. Every time I watched it, I was like, oh, I learned something new. This is amazing. And there's a thing about rituals in there that really got me. And I started doing my own rituals. And it was just so powerful.
So you're given presence through ritual of something that you can give language to then. They're creating a meaning or an event.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what kind of rituals impacted you?
So I really liked the idea when I heard it about rituals, and it really resonated with me. And he talked about, in most cultures, there's like a manhood ritual that you go through. And when you go through the ritual, you are literally no longer a boy, you are a man. You go into some cave and the elders like scar you and cut your penis or whatever, right? And then
it's that rite of
and when you
passage.
step out, you're no longer acting like a child. You know, you are no longer dependent. You are given responsibilities, and we don't have that in our culture.
Yeah.
And so that really hit me, and I'm like, I'm going to give myself a manhood ritual. And I'm going to go up in the mountains at midnight, and there's this tunnel up there, this super dark, scary tunnel.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to take a bunch of mushrooms.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, by myself at midnight, walk through this tunnel, and it's going to be like another world. And when I come back out the tunnel, I'm going to be a man. Wow. And so I walked through the tunnel, and I was scared shitless, and I was like seeing monsters and stuff because, you know, my mind is full of psilocybin.
Yeah.
And I go through the tunnel, and it's like a full moon out, and just like have this crazy experience out in the wilderness and get scared. Some deer walked across my path, and I was like, oh my God, I just freaked out.
Oh my.
But it was just an amazing like walkabout, I guess.
Yeah.
And then when I came through the tunnel at the other side, I said, okay, now I'm a man. Didn't really work out probably the way my parents thought. My parents probably didn't think I was a man at that point. But
what was your age about?
18.
Okay, yeah.
But the idea of ritualizing these things that we don't have rituals for anymore really intrigued me.
That is amazing. You're an 18-year-old dude, and you have this presence of mind to know my journey needs to have a ritual involved with it.
Right, and I think that kind of points to there's a lot of stuff lacking in our society. A lot of stuff. It's not just rituals. It's just a deep connection to your cultural story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were at a party last night, and I was talking to a lady, and she was talking how she took her grandson to do a ritual and how it completely changed him from being this, you know, engrossed into his phone and lack of self-confidence, and he walked out of it with just a different person by going through this ritual and this run, and it was like a Native American thing.
So perfect.
I think it impacts it, like you said, that's just kind of gone to the wayside in our American culture.
Right, and it shows how humans work. Right? It really shows that it's almost like you need it, right? Your brain is set up to react and to behave in ways that are symbolic, and you give meaning to things that don't have meaning. And you know, like I gave meaning to this thing that I was going to walk through this tunnel and come out the other side. But I gave it meaning; it didn't necessarily have it. And so, if we can use that somehow in our life, we give things symbol, right? Symbols have meaning.
Yeah.
Money is a symbol.
Yeah.
It's got meaning. We give it that meaning.
Yeah.
Right. We're kind of a symbolic beings, right? We give everything. We give symbols meaning.
We do.
Which is why rituals work.
Yeah, and the intention. A lot of it's all about intention, and what you're putting into it is what you're going to get back out.
Exactly.
Yeah, that even in a relationship, we've been learning that there's a symbol that I've assigned to a relationship. We assign, I mean, in every area of life, you create a meaning for something, and then you create a story around that. You validate yourself. I validate myself maybe in a relationship or the level of income. man, it's part of that human journey.
It really is, yeah. Yeah, so interesting.
So part of the Joseph Campbell work is learning that we're all connected. We all have this shared commonality. And then some people say, no, this is history. This is literalism. This is a literal story. You know, Jonah was in the whale literally. And then it's like, oh, okay, so now
it turns it into
the truth. Now, you start to, there was truth there that you could have like worked with, but now you're like, no, it's literal. Talk about the difference between literalness and mythology.
Right. So I think it comes back to symbolism and meaning versus truth, right? So if your truth is, I'm going to go someplace when I die, and we'll call that heaven, and that's your truth, that's no longer a symbol. So out here in the real world, you really miss out on the symbolic meaning of heaven, which is right here on earth.
Boom.
So you don't see the beautiful nature of life. You're not looking for it. You are going through your life trying to get somewhere to your truth.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to heaven. That's truth.
Yeah.
And the thing that you miss is right in front of you.
Oh man, that's so you miss the present moment.
Yeah.
And then you find that you're trapped in hell.
Yeah. And then you look around and you say, oh my God, I'm in hell.
Yeah. That thing that I was trying to avoid the whole time.
Right. Which you created yourself.
Suffering, misery. Yeah. Oh, that's really
I
good.
have family members that are like, oh no, hell is here on earth.
Right.
And it's like, ooh.
Well, that can be a reality.
Yeah,
rather
it
than,
is.
heaven can be here on earth too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But
I
love
it's just hard. And it's just, for them to have that outlook, it's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, and it's just, in my opinion, it's just the way humans are. Like you take a large number of humans, the majority of them will be literalism. That's the way that it's going to be, and that you can see it how it plays out in the world, how it always has played out in the world, and most likely always will. It's just the way humans are wired.
Yeah. Part of my journey has been a seeking and a quest for spiritual experience. And I grew up in a religious paradigm and a Christian fundamentalist system that said if you read, if you pray, if you worship, if you do all these things, then you'll have a spiritual experience. And I was always like, oh, but it's not working. There must be something wrong with me. And what really connected with me was a psychedelic experience through ayahuasca or through mushrooms.
Right.
And to me, that is part of the human experience to do that. And then as I begin to research and I study more, a lot of the mythologies in human culture have come through psychedelic experiences. Whether you look at research that says the mushroom was really important in creating some of these biblical stories. Have you had any experience with the mythologies being created through psychedelics? Have you done any research in that department?
I haven't. I know what you're talking about. I've actually read just a few articles related to that, but I don't have a ton of experience with where they come from or anything. I have my own personal experiences, as you have, that confirm that for sure, right? So when you have a personal experience with ayahuasca or LSD or something like that, you definitely have a great understanding of how humans could have those spiritual experiences and had come to another level and share that with their tribe.
Yeah.
It's interesting how all those experiences, though, they're pretty much all the same experience. They're the same message.
And that's really gets back to Campbell's point, right? The stories are at base the same, right? The hero's journey is at base the same journey in every story. And when you look at religions and religious stories, it's no different, right? The story is the backbone is the same, which is really eye-opening as well, right? It shows you that human beings are human beings, no matter what the surface of the story says.
Give a little presence to the Campbell kind of arc, if you will. Wow, there's a separation.
Right. So the basic story arc is there's a hero that starts in, let's say, his village, right, and somehow gets separated from that village, right? So he or she gets lured out of the village by the butterfly and gets lost in the forest, or the village gets burned down, or the stormtroopers come and kill your aunt and uncle and burn your village, and now you're on a journey, right? So there's a separation. And then you go on an adventure that's a circular adventure where you meet magical helpers that help you, and you have things and forces that want to kill you, and you have to do battle and fight, and you make setbacks and you get stronger. Each battle makes you stronger, which prepares you for the next one. And so, and finally you kind of get to your end goal, which is usually some kind of treasure, or you're trying to destroy something, which is probably symbolic of something in yourself. And then whatever that thing is you get, you return to share that with your village. And so that's the journey.
Oh, that's so good.
Where have you seen that in your life?
So for instance, Finding Joe, so I made the film Finding Joe.
Yeah.
To me, that's the hero's journey, right? So I went on a journey to make this film. My goal was to make this film about the hero's journey and Joseph Campbell's and following your bliss. And I went on this adventure, and I had a ton of setbacks. I wanted to like jump off a bridge. I'm not literally, but figuratively. It was very frustrating. But I met magical helpers that helped me. I got to interview this person who led me to that person, and I just kind of wandered in the forest for a while, bumping into Merlin and bumping into Obi-Wan, and hey, can you guys help me out? I had a bunch of hardship, but I got my treasure, which was a completed film about Campbell's work, and then I came to return it with the village and shared it with the village, which is human, all humans.
Yeah. One of the quotes you have in your film, Campbell says that when you're following your bliss, what were doors will now become windows.
Right. So doors will open where there were none.
Yeah.
Right. And that's so true. And I think this is the most exciting part of all this, right? Is when you're sitting on your couch watching your TV, you are not on a journey. You are not following your bliss. You're watching the news and throwing your coffee cup and yelling at whatever the hell's going on TV. You are not on your journey. You're just stuck in the village. And the exciting thing is when you separate yourself and get on your path, which is usually in this life, in Western life anyway, is doing the thing that you love to do, right? And the classic examples are you're some kind of artist. That's what you like to do. I'm a dancer. I like to do this. I want to start a business. That's a huge one. Entrepreneurs are the biggest fans of this stuff because it relates directly to that path, right? It's a huge risk. And so when you get on that path, magical things happen. They just do. And it is amazing. We were on that path together. There was this dude sitting in front of me, and we get to talking. And he said, what do you do? I'm like, oh, filmmaker. I make the movie. He's like, no shit. You made Finding Joe? Oh, yeah, cool. What? Oh, you have a website, the Hero's Journey website? No frickin' way. So those magical coincidences happen constantly. And it's just, we opened by talking about this. It's magical, wonderful, and it's an affirmation that you're on the right path. I now incorporate that in my life. I now expect that to happen. So here's another great example. You guys are staying at my house while I'm gone, right?
So fun.
The reason why is because an hour before, I lost my house sitter. And then you just threw out there that you were looking for a place to stay.
Hey, just if you have any ideas.
And if I wasn't aware of how synchronicity worked, I would have just went, well, I don't really know you guys that well, so I don't think so. But because I'm aware of how that works, and I went, oh, this is probably the way it was supposed to happen. I just went, fuck it. I don't know you guys that well, but the universe brought you here for a reason, so you don't have a place to stay, and I need someone to stay here. Maybe that's the way it was supposed to be.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
So when you're aware of how it works, you get to use it to your advantage, and you learn how to say yes to shit that you normally would say no to.
Isn't that like the juiciest joy of life?
Yeah.
And this is the part in the episode where we cut to the fast forward version where there's a party and people passed out everywhere, and Patrick comes home and goes, what the hell?
The fuck's going on here?
No, you knew it was right when I came up and your dog actually greeted me.
Yeah, which was rare. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So anyway, it just feels like those synchronistic moments do happen. They are affirmations that you're on the right path, and when they happen, you should say yes to them.
And the thing people are desiring the most in life is comfort. And so sitting on your couch watching TV is super comfortable. I'm just going to eat potato chips and not do anything. But you have to have something that disrupts that comfort.
I think that's the norm, though, and that's okay. Like, that's just the way that it is.
Comfort's great.
And there's no judgment. Like, if you're super comfortable, but for you, if you're super comfortable, but inside you're like, I really should be starting this business that I've been talking about, or I really should be, asking that boss for a raise, or there's something inside you that you need that's bothering you, and then you're still sitting on your couch. That's something to examine there.
Yeah. That's that disruptive force,
right?
That thing that something upsets the apple cart. Something happens where it creates that separation, or you decide, you know what, I need to take a different path to work this time.
Right, and that's a great point, because oftentimes it's going to happen to you, right? If you don't do it yourself, it's going to happen to you. You're going to have some kind of health issue. You're going to get fired. There's some bad thing that's going to happen that's going to be your wake up call.
Yeah.
It's be called a wake up call.
Yeah.
And it forces you onto the path.
Yeah. Oh,
and that's also the universe saying, hey, man, you shouldn't be sedentary now. You should get off your ass and do something.
Yeah. And I think those are literally designed by ourselves before we come here.
Yes.
Like, okay, something needs to happen. You're not moving.
Yeah.
Things aren't going.
Right.
You need a little push out the door.
Exactly.
Part of that has been the book Journey of Souls, where Dr. Michael Newton did hypnotherapy for 30 years and had 7,000 people saying that, I'm a spiritual being here having human experience, and I designed my life to have some adventure in it, whether it was a family that had alcoholism in it, or it was a relationship that I knew wouldn't work out, but there was something that my soul wanted to journey through. And to your point, the universe is working in your favor. We're like, oh, these bad things are happening. I personally, we had a financial bankruptcy through a business that didn't work, and I was like, oh, it's the worst thing ever. But it changed the trajectory of my life to where now I'm creating episodes of exploring the human journey, whereas I wouldn't have done that in that other paradigm.
Right.
And so that's part of my bliss. And so there's that, the universe is going to be working in your favor rather than feeling like you're the victim and you're being persecuted. Sometimes those disruptive forces are there to move you forward.
Exactly. But you have to recognize that that's what it is, or you are in the hell.
Did you get in hell?
That's how you get in hell, right?
So good.
You just don't recognize that that's there for a reason. You need to figure it out. But most people don't, and that's why they're in hell.
Well, it takes practice to actually embrace those moments.
It takes practice to get to a point, for sure.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. It takes practice and some experience. I think when you're younger, it's hard to really see that.
Yeah. You just feel the victim mentality around it. And I mean, that's part of our learning experiences. We're all victims at some point over something. But when you can recognize that it's for your best, it's for your highest and best, and it's going to be greater on the other side, that's the beauty of it.
Exactly.
Part of the keyword that really touches me with Campbell's work is follow your bliss. He didn't say follow your happiness. He didn't say follow your love. He said follow your bliss.
Right.
And Dr. David Hawkins has this scale of vibration. It's in the body, like shame and guilt and fear and anger. Those are really low vibrations. And love, joy, peace, and bliss are like the highest vibrations. And he'll even say like bliss and enlightenment are like interchangeable words.
You see the graph with two different ones. Some say bliss, some say enlightenment.
And so that's a key word for me has been follow your bliss and feel that energy. Even in an ayahuasca ceremony I recently had, ayahuasca was talking to me, and I mean, it was like my eyes are closed, but I have these visual images, and she's like, you need to feel within your body the energy of bliss. And that's where you want to stay. That's heaven. That's that space of where you came here to grow and to learn. And what are things in your life that you're finding just bring you that great sense of bliss?
I think also that it's really good to define bliss, though, because definitely people can confuse it with pleasure, right? So it's very easy to confuse bliss with pleasure. So when you say follow your bliss to a young person, right? Yeah, man, I'm just going to drop ecstasy and have sex all the time. Like that's bliss. I mean, that gets confused all the time.
Perfect.
And Campbell's line was, I should have said follow your blisters. Right?
Oh,
because there's definitely I think with Campbell anyway, and he was dismayed slightly that people were taking that saying and just like, hey man, I'm just blissing out here, and I'm just getting high, and
Sitting on the couch
It's
watching
sitting
TV.
on the couch watching TV. It's my bliss, right?
It's my bliss.
So you really have to make a distinction. You know, your bliss is your passion, your dream, the thing you're put on earth
Yes.
to do. You know, that's your bliss. So once you get there and you can make that distinction, you're in a much better position to have that awareness to then go either, yeah, I know what my bliss is, I'm following it, or to go, okay, I know that isn't my bliss, I got to figure it out.
Oh man, that's such a good point. So there's things that people have in their life that they're like, oh, when I get really high or get really drunk, I'm in bliss. Right. Okay, but what is, well, I always wanted to be a writer. Well, maybe there's something in there you might want to explore.
Right. Those little things in your head that are deep inside you going, yeah, this really isn't for you. There's this other thing that we should be doing. Those are where you need to focus your energy.
Now, I know you're a prolific surfer.
Uh-huh.
Talk to me about how surfing is incorporated in your practice of bliss.
Well, I think for me, that's my meditation. People say, do you do yoga or meditate? That's really my form of meditation. You know, you can really go out and doing things like that. I enjoy cooking too. I really get like super zenned out when I'm surfing and cooking, right? So it's easy to do when you're surfing because you're in the ocean and sometimes little dolphins are swimming by and you're like, oh man, I am at the bottom of the food chain and this is great. And that, you know, that great Pacific Ocean washing over you, and it's just a wonderful experience. And then, you know, metaphorically, you're riding waves of energy and you are learning how to surf in space and time. And there's all these great metaphorical things that go through my mind as I surf.
Yeah, you really find yours in the ocean also, don't you?
I do. I like to scuba dive.
Oh, great.
And when I'm under the water, the breath, you really are connected to the breath.
Right.
Because it's a sport you do on life support.
Right. And there's a thing about being underwater, which is kind of being in conscious, like you're in a different world, right? So you're in a different consciousness. And it's just the metaphors there and the symbolism is inescapable when you're underwater.
Yep. Yeah, there'll be times where I don't have to think about anything other than just what's in front of me. Right. What am I present with? What is in my field of vision? Right.
And so to that point, anything can become a meditation, right? Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance. It's just anything that we do that we enjoy becomes a meditation or a Zen, or, you know, there's artistry to it. You can turn tying your shoes into that.
Yeah, that presence practice is so important.
Yeah.
Do you receive spiritual message when you're in that bliss state, whether it's surfing, cooking, or tying your shoes?
For me, the most times I experience creative insight is what I would call it, is when I'm flying. Oh. So when I get on an airplane, for whatever reason, is where I get my most creative ideas just come to me.
Oh, wow.
So not the shower, but the plane.
Nope, the airplane.
So when you're lacking creative ideas, you just
I should just
hop
get on a
plane.
I should, and I think about that constantly. I actually do think about that constantly. Like, man, I should just get on an airplane right now.
Maybe you need to learn to become a pilot.
And sometimes, I did fly helicopters for a little while.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. But I didn't get any insights there. I was mostly afraid for my life and crashing. But
stressed out the whole time.
I really look forward to airplane rides now, and I get to the airport super early, and I kind of zen out at the airport, and I get on the plane early, and I just kind of like wait for some inspiration, and always it's there. It's the weirdest thing.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's a meditation practice.
It's a meditation practice. Yeah.
Do you have earbuds in or anything? Or?
Sometimes I have earbuds in, but it's just quite extraordinary the way that it works. It's the consistency with which it happens is extraordinary.
Yeah. Some of those synchronicities in life occur where you're in a block, you can't figure out how to get around the obstacle.
Right.
You go into that meditation space, that flight. Have you had those connections, those synchronicities of like you solved the problem and you've gotten to the next point? Absolutely.
I'd say every single time I fly, something like that happens.
I want to specifically address a few things in the movie Finding Joe
that
I found fascinating. Number one, you got super cool people on the interview. I don't know how you just go, hey, my name's Pat, I'm a filmmaker, is Deepak available?
I didn't. That's the whole point of Synchronicity, right? And I like the way that I conducted the interviews or the process of getting people was I just literally said out loud, I just declared that I'm going to go into the forest and bump into whoever I bump into. And that's who is meant to be in the film. And they're going to lead me to someone else. And that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not that I didn't have a hit list and Deepak wasn't on it, but I wasn't going to reach out to his, dozens of handlers. They were just going to say, most likely, yeah, who are you?
Yeah.
What have you done? Like, there's nothing there.
Yep.
So I interviewed Brian Johnson,
Yep.
who was my very first interview in Bali.
Oh.
And he said, oh, you should meet my friend Robin Sharma, who lives in Toronto. And Robin said, oh, you should interview my friend Deepak, who's in San Diego.
Oh, here's a cell number. Yeah, that's
right.
how it works.
He literally gave me his cell number.
Oh, my God.
So I just texted him, and he said, oh, Robin said it's cool. And also he introduced me to Paulo Coelho cell number. What's up, Paulo?
Wow.
Yeah, I love those. That's been happening with us just with the show. It's just, we kind of don't know who we're going to interview and we just kind of keep going.
And that's really the way. And
they
if you do that
show up.
intentionally, like if you intentionally just say, someone's going to show up and whoever it was meant to be there,
Yeah.
then that's when stuff happens.
Yeah.
You can beat your head against the wall trying to get someone,
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because in the ayahuasca journey that we just did, that was one of the things that Mama Aya really brought to me. She's like, just raise your vibration to the level of what you're seeking. And instead of trying to go out there and try and grab it,
Right.
when you just get to that point, it's going to come to you naturally.
Right.
And it was interesting because I was just feeling the music and dancing, and I wanted other people to dance with me, but she's like, no, just let it come. And then all of a sudden it wasn't people, but it was the drums started coming and playing with me and getting into that dance with me. And it was just like this example she gave me, but it's just, that's where it's at. That's where the
really
juice of life is at.
Yeah.
Yeah, matching and raising and synchronicities. It's all right there.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things through the process of the movie? You've made these beautiful connections. I mean, I had just read Alan Cohen's book. It was something with the Course of Miracles that he had written about.
Right.
And then
he's such a great guy.
He's the opening, speaker there, and he's telling this story. There's these metaphors. You've got this great troop of kids that one of them was your son.
Right.
And just so fun. And just the things you did, the wardrobe, the setting on the beach, he's telling a metaphor, and then here you are having the kids act it out.
Right.
I mean, it's so beautiful. How was that creativity? Did you have ideas?
Yeah, so there was definitely moments where I didn't have ideas, right? And that was a lot of creative challenges. There was a couple moments where we were a year into it and I'd spent a ton of money and I'd said no to a bunch of commercial work. And so, I mean, I definitely hurt my career by doing this film and I didn't have anything to show for it. We're the film that we cut together sucked. And I was like, this is horrible. I put my family in financial jeopardy and I don't have anything. I'm a failure. This sucks. I curl up on a ball. This is horrible. But I did know that we were going to shoot. I did know people were going to tell stories, and in those stories, I was going to get these kids and do the stories. So I was like, well, that's really all I got. So let's just do one or two of those. So I went out and shot one of them, and then the editor cut it together, and we kind of made something out of it. And we went, oh shit, this is awesome. We're going to do the whole film this way. And it just, in a flash, just turned around, and we went. We knew we had something.
Mm-hmm.
So. The speed at which it fell together after that was astonishing. Yeah. So it was beautiful. And it was just, it was fun to make. It was just such a fun process. And all the kids were the kids in this neighborhood. And I would just go outside and say, hey, kids, I'm the creepy guy. Get in my van. Let's go film. And I'd be like, what are we going to, I'll give you guys pizza.
Yeah.
And I'll buy you something at Toys R Us.
Yeah. It's the best.
It was awesome. And I knew all their parents, so nobody had a problem with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful stories that impacted me is there's a tiger that's living among the sheep.
Oh, right.
If you would, give presence to that.
That's Bob Walter tells the story, and this is the old story that there's a tiger that gets lost from its mother, or the mother dies or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the sheep adopt the tiger, and it learns how to baa like a sheep, and it eats grass like a sheep, and it doesn't know it's not a sheep. It thinks it's a sheep. And then one day, this big male tiger comes along, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing here, man? You're a tiger." And the thing goes, "Bah!" And so the male tiger goes, "Oh, we got problems. We got to figure this out." So he grabs the tiger by the scruff and takes him to his cave, and it's like, "I'm going to teach you how to be a tiger."
Yeah. And
he grabs a hunk of meat and shoves it down the throat, and the tiger spits it out. And as Bob says, the metaphor is, as all do when they swallow the truth. And so slowly he kind of gets the tiger back on his feet, and he realizes he's a tiger and goes off into the forest to become a tiger.
Yeah.
And then the beauty of that part of the film, anyways, Bob's explanation of the metaphor is, we are all tigers living among sheep.
Yeah.
We are all people with beings that we don't understand.
Yeah.
And we are all fed grass when we should be eating tiger food.
Yeah.
Right? We are all, the metaphor is, when you turn the TV on, you're eating sheep food.
Yeah.
When you turn it off and start intentionally getting information that's good for you, you're eating tiger food.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. And that had such a resonance with me. It was like, this spiritual being within, this human experience is screaming and crying for there's more. There's more to life. This is more than just I'm born, I'm going to pay some bills, and then I'm going to die.
Right.
There's so much more. You can enjoy your life right now.
Right.
That was good. So thank you for including that. And that interview with Bob was amazing. Is he like the curator for the information?
He is the president of the Joseph Campbell Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was really good friends with Campbell when he was alive.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a good history there.
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah.
So on your human experience, on this journey through life, you've come into the presence of being a filmmaker. Rather than other things in life. You could have been a guy that went to a job and worked 9 to 5 and got a paycheck, but no, you decided you're going to be a filmmaker.
Right.
People think, wow, I want to be a filmmaker. Maybe give some presence to living on the edge with that.
Right. I don't know if it's living on the edge, really. I mean, sometimes financially it is, for sure.
Yeah.
But I just enjoy the process. I've always known at a young age that I was going to be a filmmaker. So I didn't really have to go on my journey was just a journey of commitment. Like, I'm going to commit to this thing. But I feel blessed in that I knew that that's what I was going to do from a young age.
Yeah.
And it's just been, like I said, it's been an incredible experience, because especially now as we get older, we really understand how the journey works and kind of use it to our advantage.
Yeah. Give some examples for how your journey has been evolving through your years.
Well, let's see. So when I was younger, I was really into, I was shooting commercials, right? I was into commercial filmmaking, which was awesome. And I really, really enjoyed that process.
And for those that don't know, you get paid from those things.
Yes, you get paid. Yeah.
Versus being a filmmaker, you may or may not.
You may or may not. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I did those, and that was a steady check and it was freelance. Sometimes you worked a lot, sometimes you didn't work at all. And it's still that way. I still do those jobs here and there, not as much as I would like, actually. But then I did Finding Joe, and that was actually financially on the edge, because I didn't know if I was going to get paid. I was spending a lot of money on it, and the film actually took a long time to make its money back, which I didn't expect at all. I'm like, oh, well, I'll be fine. Like, the universe will take care of me. But what I should have said was, I'll be fine, but I also need to have a plan and, figure it out.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it's on the edge.
Yeah.
But the process of making the film was so amazing and fun and enjoyable that I'm actually now making another film. So I'm kind of back on that same journey as I was in Finding Joe, which is once again been an amazing, fun, challenging experience, which I'm really grateful to be on.
Yeah. While we're here at that point, give presence to how people can find your work and connect with you on that.
Okay, cool. So Finding Joe is the name of the film, and on the web it's findingjoethemovie.com.
as far as your upcoming projects, do you want to give presence to any work that you have?
Yeah, so the film that I'm doing now is loosely around the subject of money. I don't have a title for it, but you just gave a great title and I forgot it.
I'll tell
something
it to you.
Like
it's the creative energy of money.
The creative energy of money, right? So that's what I was. As soon as you said it, I was like, oh, maybe that's the title. So it's the title is The Creative Energy of Money.
That's my gift to you. No royalties attached to it.
Actually, I don't. But it's something similar, right? So it's about loosely about the subject of money, and the idea is that money is just an idea. It's not a thing. Yeah. The thing in your pocket is a piece of paper with some paint on it that in your mind you give meaning to. It's a symbol, and money actually happens in the mind, which is freaking weird. Yep. And there's something to explore in there. And there's a lot of things about money is extremely emotional, and it's tied up in a lot of shame and guilt. And money controls our lives in ways that we are unaware of. And if you were aware of them, it could maybe make your life better. Mm-hmm. And so it's this whole exploration of money, what it is, how we use it, how it's unconscious, how it's spiritual, how it's energy. There's just a lot of shit about money that is really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
What prompted you to create something about money? What was it
It was actually something that happened in Finding Joe. So as I was doing Q&As when we released Finding Joe, people would say something to the effect of, hey man, I'd really like to just quit my job and follow my bliss, but I need money. My kids need to eat, and I need to pay a mortgage, and that's just not practical. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of money just kept coming up for me, like, that's weird, why do you need money? What is money anyway? Mm-hmm. So I just kept asking these questions and kind of discovering that there's something to be explored there.
Yeah. That's part of a new paradigm that consciousness is continuing to grow and evolve in. People are understanding a lot of these spiritual elements about, okay, I'm a spiritual being here. What's the next thing? Well, now it's about being the creator, being source creative energy. Right. And what is that about? Well, we have this thing called money. It's this energy. What's that about? You're like, oh, to your point, it's not the piece of paper, it's the energy of the paper. Right. Well, how do you value yourself? Well, I'm $1 an hour. Well, I'm $1,000 an hour, or whatever that thing. How do you value that? Where's that energy being created? Right. Dude, you're right on the cutting edge.
Value is another big one. Mm-hmm. Value is a big one. Like, how do you value yourself? Yep. And that happens in terms of money. And I mean, what I'm really discovering is that money is just the subject matter anyway. For me, seems like a good one of many gateways into personal development, into becoming a better person.
Yes.
Right.
It's all that holistic completeness of a human being.
Right.
Yeah. And that's part of, I think consciousness is trying to be healed to where you realize you are whole and complete. Right. You don't need to think of yourself as something that's unworthy, something that's broken, something that's like unlovable. And so many people get trapped in those lower vibrations.
Most people do.
Super easy. Yeah. Especially when you hear all the fear and you watch the news and the political climate and there's fear and you're like, oh, there's just no hope, and you just and maybe you turn that off and you find yourself in a space of positivity and a presence practice or meditation or music or whatever. Right. For myself, I enjoy meditation music. And the other day I got in my car and I put on a meditation track that I had written, and I find bliss in that. But I don't know, something that I need to vibrate. I need something a little bit more aggressive. So I went to my iPhone and I hit AC/DC, Back in Black. I'm like,
this is it.
And I'm driving. I'm like, and that energy. And it was like, I needed AC/DC in that moment.
You needed AC/DC.
I needed some just,
Sometimes you need that.
And you just need to raise that vibration. And then you start to feel that connection. Yeah. That connection to God through, AC/DC.
Through AC/DC happens.
Whatever that is. Another beautiful thing I saw in your pantheon of online presence is you got to do a TED Talk.
Oh yeah, that was really fun.
How did that connect?
Yeah, the woman who started the TED Talk called me up and said, "Hey, I watched your film and I've been thinking about doing this TED Talk, and I'm gonna call it The Hero's Journey. And so she invited me to speak, and I was like, that's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to." So, that's another one that was just like a weird synchronistic thing that happened because I went down the road and followed my bliss.
Oh, man.
So I just kind of attracted all this stuff to happen, which was great. I also said no to a lot of things, which in retrospect I probably shouldn't have. But this one I was like, I'm in, let's do this.
That's a great point. Give presence to that. Sometimes you have to say no because of self-preservation.
Sometimes you do. Like there's definitely a few other speaking opportunities that I regret not saying yes to, and it was mostly just because I was just being lazy at that time. I'd just come off a lot of publicity for Finding Joe. I'm like, oh God, I can't do it. But I probably should have. I guess the lesson is it's difficult to know when to say yes and when to say no.
Yeah.
But you just try to follow your gut. Actually, that's not true. Even then, when those were happening, I said to myself, this is probably a good opportunity. I should take it. But I'm just so tired I can't. And now, having done that on this film, I'm not doing that. If an opportunity comes up, I'm saying pretty much trying to say yes to everything, unless it's an obvious screaming no. If it's like even a tepid yes, I'm going to take it.
Isn't that interesting how you leave yourself open for more synchronicities?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
And yet there are those things that suck your energy. Getting stuck in a conversation with the same negative person over and over again. Maybe that needs to feel like it's a no.
Right. Yeah. Those are easy. Those are screaming no's.
Those are screaming
Yeah,
no's.
those are easy ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, what are some of the personal things that you've developed through? I mean, do you want to talk about some personal issues, things that you've learned through loss and through your human experience?
I think the experience of pain and loss can be, I don't know, it's difficult. Like, okay, I'll give you an example from Finding Joe, right? So before I made the film, I was having a midlife crisis, a classic midlife crisis. It was so embarrassing looking back and I'm like, did I really do that? Did I really? Oh my God, I'm an idiot. Like I have those feelings still about this midlife crisis. And then in the midst of that, both of my parents died, right? Like a couple weeks apart. And that was really horrible.
Yeah.
And that was extremely painful. And it snapped me out of my midlife crisis, but now I'm having another crisis, like a crisis of loss.
Yeah.
And in the midst of that kind of swirl of pain and loss and grief, I'm looking for a way out. And so I decide in that moment, I need to make this film about Campbell's work. And so slowly I kind of put the pieces together and got on that journey. But it was because I was having a lot of pain and I was suffering. So something good came out of that.
Yeah. Suffering can lean and push you. Again, I guess it's back to that being a disruptor. And wherever you're at, you're like, oh, this needs to shift. This needs to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get too comfortable and we just like to stay there.
Yeah.
It makes it kind of hard to change if something doesn't come along and move us out sometimes.
Yeah.
For the guy that's sitting in your audience and he says, yeah, but I got to pay my mortgage. I got my family to support. What about money? And you're putting all these things together. Have you come up with an idea of how to give advice to that type of person?
Yeah, it's well, first of all, it's difficult. It's not like a simple.
Here's your recipe.
Exactly. Here's
Here's
a couple sentences, and you can watch it on my Instagram post.
Yes.
It doesn't work that way, right? It takes a little bit of work.
Yeah.
But just to recognize that it is possible, like just to say, yeah, I feel like I might be stuck at my job, and I'm stuck because I'm financially on the hook for a mortgage and children and things. But if you really want to do something else and you feel like your life needs to be differently, but you do feel stuck, to really take a step back and you need to just start unpacking where you are in life, because chances are there's a way to make it work. Also, chances are you probably are stuck for reasons that you made up. Right? You're probably, do you really need that big of a house to pay a mortgage on?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Do your kids really need to go to the most expensive private school?
Yeah.
Do you really need to be driving that, expensive car?
Yeah.
Like, are you stuck because you're trying to portray an image and that costs money?
Yeah.
And now you need to feed your image, not your lifestyle?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things to consider when you say, oh, dude, I'd really like to just quit my job, but I can't. I'm stuck. So, and it's not an easy it's just not an easy answer, because if you are saying those things, most likely my response is going to trigger you. Right?
Yeah.
And so, and there's no getting through that once you're triggered. Once you go, you don't understand, I'm stuck, like this is my reality, fuck you.
Yeah.
That kind of
my
energy.
reality. Yeah.
Like that, you don't understand my life, like this is my truth.
Yep.
Once you get triggered in that way, there's no information getting through.
Yep.
And so you just get to be stuck.
That's that ego construct, that personal protector. That is something that I am so interested in learning, to be the observer of my thoughts rather than my thoughts.
Yeah.
Right.
So my personal protector is like, oh no, you need that safe and secure. You need certainty.
Right.
Whether it's in relationship, whether it's through finances, you need to have certainty.
Right.
And I'm like, what is certainty? And then that leads me down the path
Or
of
security.
Security. What is that comfort? What is that?
Right.
Which leads me down the path of this spiritual being having the human experience journey. And I'm like, I didn't come here to have a comfortable, safe, certain, secure path. I came here for adventure.
Right.
And you know, even if I'm a spiritual being that picks out my sign, I picked out a December birthday, which makes me Sagittarius, and I don't know anything about astrology, so I start to learn. And it says, oh, you're after adventure. You're after spiritual consciousness, making sense of it. You're after telling information. I'm like, damn, that's a lot of what I'm actually doing in life. Those are all the things I'm really interested in. Wow, it's kind of interesting how that all begins to come together when you follow your bliss, that thing. And I don't have a pathway. I don't know how to do exploring the human journey and have all my material needs met. And there's still other things we have to put together.
Right.
But man, do you get in a space where you can trust the universe. And that, I think for me, that's the biggest thing I'm learning, just to do a trust fall.
Yeah. Trusting the universe, it's hard. We're kind of grow up in a space where maybe we don't learn how to trust.
Well,
So then trusting the universe, something you can't see, that's huge.
that American, you got to work hard, and money's hard to get, and you got to work hard to get money, and you know, all those things that I was given as a narrative.
Right.
You know, and then life's about, you know, and if you put a religious context, life's about getting out of here and getting to there. You know, boy, just to let go and let God, which is a beautiful old saying.
Right.
You know, what are some of the things that you have experienced through just trusting and letting things go?
I think mostly it's in the filmmaking process, right? When I just trust that I'm doing this film, which is incredibly difficult, is way harder creatively than Finding Joe was.
Wow.
And so, but I'm not panicking. I'm just trusting that it'll figure out. But based on the last experience, you know, I was in this creative rut, and it just worked itself out. You know, I have that trust. I know it's gonna work itself out.
Yeah. When's your next airplane ride?
My next airplane ride is next week. So yeah, I'm good. I'm in good shape. Yeah.
Good. Well, I want to make sure that you keep those creative juices flowing.
Yeah, exactly.
As we wrap up the episode, I really like the guest to give presence to, if there's one thing about my work and my journey I really want people to know, it would be this thing. What would that be for you?
I think right now, if there's one thing to know about my work and my journey, is that I am on another journey and I'm making this new film, and you should definitely watch it, and you should purchase it for $9.99.
So good. I love it.
It's about money. You're going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be awesome. And I am so excited to bring it into the world.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. You know, there's something about money exchange too. When you give that energy for it, and that's that give and that receive. There's that sowing and reaping it.
Yes, exactly.
Good. And again, give presence to your website, how people can find you and connect.
Yeah, it's just through Finding Joe, findingjoethemovie.com. Yeah.
And so they can find out about your other movie when it comes out through that same...
No, I don't, because I don't have a title. I don't have a website yet.
There you
right?
go, right?
I don't have a Facebook page yet. It's all just in the early stages, but it is coming.
Yeah.
Watch for it.
I love that you're on your journey. You're in the middle of your journey right now.
Yeah.
My guess it's going to come on that airplane. Or if it's like Dave, I can always tell when he's into a meditative space, like coming up with a new idea, because all of a sudden, GoDaddy, I get an email with a new .com.
Right, that's it. Because I came up with a new one.
He did. I just got 2
Awesome.
more a couple weeks ago.
Awesome. Patrick Solomon, thank you, man. Thank you
Yeah,
for
oh my God,
opening
thank
your
you
home.
guys so much for having me, and happy birthday, Gail!
Happy
Yeah!
birthday, Gail. And to you, my friend, we say namaste.
Dude, thank you guys so much.
Thanks for joining us here on Exploring the Human Journey. You can find us as a video on YouTube or listen to us as a podcast. You can also join in the conversation by following us on Facebook and Instagram. For more information, go to the website at exploringthehumanjourney.com.